Hello, I'm George. If you're not familiar, this is Fat Ninja Food Forest. This video is just going to be some simple worm systems. We do classes, tours, and consultation here for the Food Forest, but we also have a wormery. Now, wormery, we sell worms by the pound. We sell castings for sale for use in your gardens, and we also sell worm systems. And what I mean by worm systems is our breeding systems. So those are kind of a plug and play. You take home 500 to 600 large adult worms, up to 1,000 cocoons, and their bedding, which is a good to inoculate your bedding with. Then you want to put that into something. So we'll go inside now, and I'll just show you some real simple systems that we've used over the past. They can help you get started in a real simple way to use them. It can be as simple as any small bin, medium-sized bin, and how you use those bins. So let's go have a look. Here we are in the wormery. So if you're to buy one of these breeder bins, you can take it home. You could use the bin itself. It's large enough to get started in. My favorite one that we used over the years was something like this. We use a double bin, one of these. That top one there and this both have holes drilled all through them. That allows you just to start with your bedding. So some ripped up cardboard, whatever your carbon source is, because this is composting, it's going to be a layer of carbon, a layer of nitrogen, the nitrogen being the food scraps. Their carbon can be wood mulch, compost, shredded cardboard, shredded waste products you have, mail. It can be, I don't promote it, peat moss, cocoa coir. Those work wonderful. I don't promote it though; they're not sustainable. So any source of browns, old leaves is a great thing to use. But anyways, I'm going on. So get your source of carbon in there. And then it's as simple as taking one of these and dumping it in there. So when you dump that in, you're going to have tons of worms in there. Like we said, it's 500-600 worms. You're also going to have all these cocoons. It's right full of these cocoons. Need a little better light. But a big part of that is this bedding, this black gold, having all that bacteria and fungi, the lowest end of the food chain. But that's what comes in. That's the teeth of the forest and the teeth of the field. The fungi being the teeth of the forest, you're going to find forests are fungal dominated, and bacterial dominated would be the fields. So in our gardens, I'm not going to get into too much, but we want more bacterial dominated or 50-50 anyways. So anyways, in here in that bedding, I go off so easily on tangents. I digress so often. Anywho, we see a ton of worms in here and a ton of this black gold in here already. So you're going to add that to your carbon source already, and you'll be able to start feeding it right away. So you dump that in here with your cardboard, ripped up shredded material, wetted down. Dump this in. Having this already, if you're just to put worms in here, I suggest to people, if you just bought a pound of worms, you could do the same thing. Dump the worms in here directly on top of the cardboard, the wetted cardboard. And then I would suggest you feed in one corner at a time for the first 4 feedings. So you pull back the corner, put some food in there, some garden waste or some kitchen scraps, cover it back up with that carbon source, whatever you're using, so there's no smell, and attract the worms over there. Do that kitty corner 4 times to track the worms through that, and they're getting that biota on there. They're getting that started in there to breaking that carbon source down for you. If you start with one of these systems, instead you're going to have half the worms to start with, but you're also going to have, like I said, 1,000 cocoons or so. They're just all over in here. Each of those cocoons averages 4 baby worms. So the bedding itself is going to dump on top of that cardboard that you have, or whatever your carbon source is for the bedding. Getting these bacteria and fungi started breaking that down, making it able for the worms to consume that easily. They don't have teeth, and make black gold out of it. So at that point, you wouldn't have to feed all 4 corners of this. Instead, you could just dump this in, mix it in with your cardboard source, feed on top of that, and then put some wetted cardboard on top of that. They're going to find their way from this up and through that, and so are all those babies that are going to hatch. You're going to triple your number of worms at least in the next month or two. And it's going to be a very efficient system at that point. And I'm not promoting it for any reason. I just think it's a wonderful way to get started is with these breeder bins. We just assume just as easily sell you the worms. All we have to do is separate them from the bins. So that's an easy way. That's my favorite way is this. So in a system like this, you'd add it, like I said, start feeding it up until it's about halfway full, half, 2/3 full. Then I would take the next bin with holes, put it inside on top of there, add some carbon inside of here, the new bedding inside of that bin, and some food inside of there. So as they finish consuming everything that's in the bottom, they're going to crawl through the holes in the first bin, or in the second bin, I'm sorry, from the first bin, and find that new food source. So they self-harvest themselves. So this is a self-harvesting 2-bin system that you just rotate. So as I started feeding from here, after 2 or 3 feedings, they'd most likely have most have left from here. I would take that bin out, use these castings. There's a couple of different ways of separating worms. I talk about that in other videos, making piles and taking the caps off, getting the remaining worms out of there. And then start the whole system over. Harvest those castings, start feeding from above again, and just rotating them as needed. Another way is to do a simple system like this and feed from the bottom to the top until it's ready, and then harvest the worms by dumping it out and making piles and harvesting the worms. An easier way, so you don't have to try to harvest all those worms at once doing that with one bin, will be what's called a wedge system, where you feed from one end to the other. So as it piles up on this end, becomes a wedge coming across here, you're feeding the face of that wedge to the other end. As you approach the other end, you can harvest these castings, half, 2/3 of them, until you get into unfinished material, and start feeding your way back the other way. The feeding would be the same thing: a layer of carbon, a layer of nitrogen, a layer of shredded cardboard that's wetted, shredded leaves, peat, cocoa coir. We use compost. We use our finished thermophilic compost, and then a layer of food. So alternating layers of that. Garden waste, greens. I hope I've covered that well. A third way, if you're an apartment dweller or something like that, would be as simple as a container like this with a lid. There's no smell to this. If there is a smell, you need to add more carbon. So get a little more cardboard on the top, covering it up, and having fewer worms in a smaller area. And it'd be great for your house plants or using in a small garden area. You're still turning waste into a surplus and not putting it in the landfill. So from there, I come outside. I've been finishing my videos out here. It's just so much nicer. So from there, using those castings, we top dress with them. We make compost teas out of them, compost extracts out of them, getting that soil food web going, making it so we don't have to use any fertilizers or less and less fertilizers, making sure that we actually add an incredible amount of water holding ability in those castings themselves and that soil food web in your soil. We fight against disease by covering the leaves, spraying them all over the leaves, putting the good guys over those leaves first, making sure that no one bad can colonize it. I'll leave it short there. So change can be better than a holiday. We believe it's long overdue. Let us know if we can help you out with some worms, some worm castings, a complete composting system. Come take a tour, or we'd love to consult with you about creating this as your property. I'm George. This is Fat Ninja Food Forest. Change better than a holiday. Peace.